conference is called the PSE Macro Days with a S because it's actually made of two different events. So today is the annual conference of the Macroeconomic Risk Chair at PSE, which is sponsored by SCORE. And tomorrow will be the annual conference of the International Macroeconomics Chair at PSE, which is sponsored by the Banque de France. And so we are extremely grateful to both of them for supporting our research environment here at PSE. So let me now leave the floor to first Daniel Cohen, President of PSE, and then Philippe Trainard, who is the Director of the SCORE Foundation.
Well, thank you. Hey, Giancarlo, how are you doing? Welcome all. It's really a great pleasure to have you here. It's, I think, the third conference of this kind that we organize. I see Gilles raising his hand and making them. I was told to check, and it's 3. Okay, so all right. So it's the third. No, I'm just joking, but it's the third conference of this kind that we organize. Perhaps the fourth, in which we merge the energy and the financial support of the Banque de France and the SCORE. To have a macro weekend somehow, and that gives us strength to have distinguished scholars coming and presenting this paper. I think it's also only relevant for PSE to be part of this venture and to be at the origin of this venture. We have a very strong macro group with many distinguished thinkers in our group, and I guess macro has been going through different times over the past. What would you say, Giancarlo? Over the past 40 years, somehow, and I guess it's back to macro, good macro time. That is when we really need the expertise of macroeconomists to understand the return of stagflation, the way the Phillips curve, the interest rate will go up or down. It's really back to the basics, and we understand that somehow we need to recast all the materials that we've been accumulating. Almost theoretically since I would say the rational expectation revolution, we need to put them back to work, and this is this kind of conference, I believe, that can help us not only hear the speakers but also set the course for the research agenda that is ahead of us. So it's really my pleasure to welcome you all. I will give the floor to one of our sponsors, a great friend and someone who's been behind PSE from the very beginning, Philippe Trainard, who's, I don't know how to introduce you, heading the SCORE, heading the SCORE unit. You will introduce yourself, but anyway, it's a great pleasure, a great economist and a long-time policymaker. Philippe.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Thank you, Gilles. Thank you, Axel. It's for me a very great pleasure to introduce this traditional annual conference of the Macroeconomic Risk Chair, which has been organized especially by Gilles, and that is supported by the Reinsurance SCORE. In fact, the foundation, the SCORE Foundation for Science. But you know, Reinsurance I've always spent a lot of time and money in research, especially in empirical research with actuaries, a lot of actuaries, and this is specific also to reinsurance to have many actuaries searching about interest rates, earthquake, and big catastrophes. And that takes also so, and it is an honor for us, with the conference of the International Macroeconomics Chair, which is supported by the Banque de France. And as said by Diana, I think it's very important for us. Macroeconomics has never been as important as today. The reason why is because we had the impression that what we have learned, especially myself, I am an old guy, what I have learned in the textbooks is not exactly available for being applied without some cautiousness today, even some big changes. Ironically, perhaps you will think there seems to be more monetary questions handled by the share supported by the reinsurer than by the one supported by the central bank. When I look at that at the topics which will be dealt with during the 2 days, it was a small surprise. But as you can easily imagine, this is only a perspective effect, because we are all deeply interested by all the questions you will deal with during these 2 days at the PSE. And PSE, I think, has rightly merged the two supports, because there is a lot of interdependencies and combination. And in fact, insurance and reinsurance, most people think reinsurers are guys who are just dealing with hurricanes and earthquake, and macroeconomics is probably of secondary importance. This is totally the opposite. The main risk, for example, of SCOR is a macroeconomic risk. And one of the main risks inside these macroeconomics is the risk of interest rates, by definition, because it concerns most of our assets and a lot of our liabilities, which is therefore very important. As you who are academic researchers, we are asking us again basic macroeconomic questions, challenging the ideas, perhaps the temptation that everything in economics has changed. It is a temptation to think that changed with the financial crisis, the euro crisis, the pandemic crisis, or that nothing has changed, which is also a temptation, and probably a wrong one, and probably the truth is in between, and we will listen to you in order to know where are the new equilibrium and balances. And of course, we will listen especially on the question of the consequence of a natural rate of interest which is below zero, on the persistence of negative real interest rates, on their ability to control inflation, but also on housing that has played a very specific role in the current cycle, as well as the essence of the coming business cycles, or the consequence of the reallocation of the capital, and more generally of the production factors that take place during all new business cycle. Let me stop there, listen to the brilliant and I hope convincing presentations and discussion that have been programmed by Gilles and Axel, and I will especially thank Daniel for the Paris School of Economics. Thanks also Jean-Olivier, I don't see him, and of course our partner who is Gilles, because we have many partnership and we work together, and Gilles, I take this opportunity to thank you and Axel, because you have been supporting a way of thinking. You have been challenging us, and it has played a very big role during the last year and the former years also. So I hope and wish you a very nice Macro Days conference. Thank you for your attention.